Good evening. I'm Dharmendra Gordon, and this is Vegan Synergy Meditation Meeting number 21. Welcome, everybody who's here present now and who's going to be listening to the recording later. So go ahead and give yourself a chance to just find a comfortable place to be in, a comfortable place on the outside, and find that place in yourself that also knows how to be comfortable. And we're just going to do a little attunement tonight. So for the next several minutes while I'm attuning us to the 10th life code, which will be the theme for this evening, there's nothing to do and there's nowhere to go and there's nothing to accomplish. It's just totally okay to just relax in your space as you are and just take in whatever comes to you from this attunement. So let's just start by taking a little space from the day we've just come out of and literally allow ourselves to release our intention in our engagement with our ordinary day and allow ourselves to just be here and present now in this space. And you can just be aware of what's in your visual field. And you can also be aware of what's in your auditory field, any sounds that might be going on around you. And along with that, if there's any smells or if you have any kind of taste in your mouth. And then you can just tune into the sensations in your body. Whatever part of you is making contact with whatever surface you're in contact with, just feel your body in contact with that surface. You can also feel on your skin the temperature and the movement or stillness of the air. And as you arrive here, we're going to allow ourselves to just kind of open up to the last week that we've been involved in, that we passed through. And we're just going to kind of be in the position where we're looking at how we behaved. So in that place in ourselves where our behavior comes from and our being knows where that is, we can just tune into that place now and allow our intelligence to bring us to that place that manages all our behaviors and what we do, how we enter the action in our life. And as we're feeling through all of those behaviors and any visual memories that might be associated with that, or any sounds or words that might be associated with that, just be aware of those moments when the shadow was strong with you over the last week and you acted out of an interest in only yourself, or it was only about you, where you do things and without any judgment, just looking objectively at those times over the last week where you acted from a place that only had you in mind, that was only concerning yourself. And there are times when that's appropriate, such as when you're taking a shower or brushing your teeth, and there are many moments when that occurs, but there's other times where self-interest might have been the primary purpose in an interaction you were having with others that involved others. So just take a look at that for a moment. Just be aware, just hold those moments in the last week energetically with awareness. Hold it with awareness. Remember to allow yourself in this deeply relaxed place where there's nothing to do and nowhere to go, that you have awareness when you hold the space for the shadow energy of self-motivated behavior. And just feel that for a moment. Just feel what that feels like. What it feels like when we're moved by the shadow of narcissism. When we're basically in our own reflection. When we're caught up in our own reflection and we really only see our interests at heart. Good. And now that we've felt that, we can allow that energy now to move down a little deeper and be surrounded by the presence of compassionate, loving, and meditative energy in our heart. So now we're going to invite that shadow aspect into our heart. And we're going to share that aspect, that shadow aspect, with the presence of our heart, that part of us that cares beyond ourselves, that wants to see others benefit as much as us. And as we do that, we start to notice that there's a quality that goes along with that in us, in our heart, that allows us to respond naturally, without agenda, to whatever it is we're encountering in our life, as our authentic self, in our authenticity, so that we can come across with who we are. So that interest is still there, but now that interest not only includes ourselves, but it includes everybody around us too. So it's not like we leave that little narcissist behind that didn't know any better as a child. That being gets front and center stage in the very center of our heart and is surrounded by all of our authenticity. All the authenticity that makes up who we are and allows us to be natural, relaxed, calm, easy, clear, open, and real. So just kind of like a river, allow all the energies in which you acted from that place of authentic expression come just flowing into your heart right now. And just whatever that is, whatever that energy is, it's going to go right into and just nourish the narcissistic aspect, that shadow aspect. That place is going to get all of our authenticity right now. All of that natural, relaxed, alive, and real expression of who we are. That truly can reach out to others and touch others and have others' interests at heart also, along with our own. And as that process happens, allow yourself, as you go deep into the center of your heart, literally like you're going on a voyage straight down into the center of yourself, into your heart. And as you move down into that place, and as you get closer to the very centermost part of your heart, you're going to notice that there's something that's grabbing your attention, and it's luminous. And you're going to allow that luminosity to pull you closer into, at a very comfortable pace, just at a very easy pace. But as you get closer, you're going to realize that it's some kind of image or form or symbol that's very unique to you and to each one of us. And as you get closer, that symbol and the color and whatever the energy it has, which is the essence of our authenticity, is going to arise before you now in the form of a very relevant and pertinent symbolic image. That is you. That's the most authentic expression of you right now in this moment. And don't be in a rush to interpret it. It may take time over the next days for this symbol to reveal why it came to you in this way, with this color, with this kind of energy. Right now, you're just going to allow it to literally be in your space and radiate from your heart and be whatever it is that your authenticity is creating as an expression of you, of your truly authentic self in action, when you enter action in the world as your authentic self. And then we're going to allow this magical symbol that has arisen in this unexpected and surprising way to kind of center down into our bellies, to kind of just, and it can also, as it settles down into our bellies, it can take on a more expanded form if that happens, or it could become more condensed and concentrated and powerful. Whatever it is that form, whatever effect that has as it encounters the depths of your center and your being and your connection to the universal life force. So now that symbol and the universal life force are connecting through the very center of your being in your belly. And here, in entering the action, the theme of this week's meditation, allow yourself to feel yourself as a complete universe in itself. Just allow yourself to be in the center of your symbol as the center of your universe. That this is what is radiated out into every dimension, direction, distance, space, time of you as a universe. It comes from this essential symbol that connects into the universal life force and creates you for all of existence to experience. So this is you entering the action when you embody your highest self. And in this sense, when you enter the action, you literally are a universe in motion. So you're allowing that symbol to transform into an emanation that spreads out and touches every single point in the universe of you. And just allow yourself to realize and enjoy that you are a universe unto yourself, and you can anytime drop into your being and experience what it's like to enter the action of being yourself. You can also enter that action. Without even moving, you can enter into the action of being activated as the totality of being of the universe of yourself. And as you allow yourself to do that, you might today, or even in this moment, or soon, or at some point, realize that you are a hologram authentically, without any question whatsoever, of the entire universe as it is. And the uniqueness of your authenticity adds a very unique flavor that gets to be part of the whole universe. That's that symbolic image that grew out of your heart when the narcissism melted into your heart and became your authenticity. it couldn't resist all that love, and it had to just go beyond itself and realize that the more love you share, the more love you are. And that's the way. That's the path that takes you right into your being and allows you to be the universe that you are, which is love. Beautiful. Everybody, welcome to the meeting this evening. Thank you for being here. I invite you all back into the present with to enter the action as yourself here and now in the space. So, well, I was going to say as always, but sometimes it's not always that way. But tonight it will be. I'll start with the shadow of narcissism. For me, that's a really deep conditioning that stems back from when I was a kid. Mostly through my father. God bless his soul. I mean, I love him. He's not here anymore in this world, but I just remember his voice in my young years when I would want to do things sometimes that apparently in his eyes wasn't an appropriate thing to do. And I said, but everybody else is doing it. And he would always say to me, I don't care what everybody else is doing. We're not going to do it that way. But even though I guess that was kind of like, neither good nor bad. It was kind of a truthful statement from his point of view. What it did for me is it made me kind of, in defense, sort of become very selfish about my own space and kind of, sort of, how do you say it? Make that space bigger than it actually was and make it full of importance, that if I wasn't allowed to go out and share my space with others, then I better make a great space inside myself where I can go in and retreat, because obviously I'm not always going to be allowed to go out and share my space with others. But on another more subtle level, what it was my father's, and obviously wherever he got it from, this narcissistic tendency to be preoccupied with the self, because as I learned years later, he didn't want to sit around and worry about me being out all night with my friends, because then he wouldn't be able to do what he wanted to do, which was sit and read his book and go to bed early and get up early and go to work again the next day. But that's what I really got, was that communication, not the one on the surface. So there is that tendency to focus a lot of energy toward myself, and luckily a lot of that has been for spiritual development, but there is that part of it which tends to make me focus more on myself a lot, just because of that habit of kind of exploding that space of my own personal space that I had no other choice when my father said, you can't go out. So what I figured is, I guess I got to go in and enjoy myself somehow. But there are times when that gets exaggerated, and I forget other people and to be considerate of them and thoughtful toward them. And so that's my shadow. It comes from a pretty deep place in me. And it's not just over the last week, but it's kind of a current of one of the deeper places I have to work on in myself. So I'm kind of sharing from a deeper place tonight, not just from the last week and the theme of the last week, but also from a deeper place. So I'm done with my shadow of narcissism.
Well, I'll share mine. Something in the last week that I've noticed in myself, which is which I've noticed in myself in the past, and it's something that I'm constantly trying to work on, is engaging in conversations with my family. I will catch myself starting a conversation just because I feel like I have something that needs to be heard, that I want to say. And then afterwards, after I've said what I said and the conversation now has momentum and it's going somewhere, I will take a back seat now that I've already said what I had to say. And yeah, and so yeah, it's just kind of, it's a hard thing to face, where I realize, oh wow, I in that moment had no interest in hearing what anyone else's opinion was on the matter. I solely wanted to share what I thought to be was true. And I noticed this in a conversation with my dad, where I was trying to give my perspective on something, and then he said something along the lines of, he said, I think a more correct perception of it would be, and then in that moment I realized, like, oh, like we both just have two different perspectives on this. Me trying to convince someone that my perspective is more correct is silly. And yeah, but yeah, that's definitely something that I see myself constantly needing to work on, because I used to do that a lot as a kid as well, where I had something that I wanted to share, something came into my mind, and I just want to share it, and I want it to be heard because I think it's the most interesting thing in the moment. And then when someone else wants to take it somewhere different, I'll be like, no, I don't think you understood what I wanted. And but yeah, there's just, yeah, so that is my shadow.
Thank you, Evan. That well, I could certainly resonate with that one. It's about, listen to me. What I got to say is important, way more important than whatever you think you got to say, and give me all your attention because I'm right. Yeah, there's a lot in that, and yeah, that's a good depiction of narcissism, of one of the aspects of it. Thank you. And remember also that it's up to you how deep you want to go with this. It can also be just a moment that you might have caught yourself in the last week, um, you know, being a little bit self-obsessed, as opposed, where maybe had you been a little less, it can be kind of light. I mean, it doesn't have to, for me, it came out deep because it's one of my deeper things that I have to work on, being human. So, yeah.
I can say that I get obsessed in relationship to male species. When I meet someone that I really like, I guess I think that I want to come together in a way that will be beneficial to Earth and life. And then if they are in agreement about how we come together, then I suggest to have the conversation. And it's probably, if they don't want to have the conversation, then it's probably not the right formula for me, or there's something there for me to learn about my energy. And some people just don't like to converse and they like to feel, and I like to feel as well, but I like to converse so that we can talk about the feeling. And for some reason, the last couple guys I've been interested in over the last many years, where one guy was a super talker to where he didn't really give me he didn't listen to me. He didn't give me a moment to listen. So I obsessed over the desire to connect with him and be heard. And then the next person just put up the stops because I kept on, I was opening my voice and I just was like, hey, let's talk. And then that bugged him so much to where he just didn't want to hear anymore because I just talked too much. So I think in both those cases, I wasn't really recognizing as much where they were, as much as I wanted to go with them. And I think it's given me, it brought me through a lot of the darkness from my traumas in my earlier life and probably my previous lives, if there's such things. So I learned a lot. But, I think most of all, I'm learning to let go, and that was more, kind of a saboteur, self-obsessive kind of trait rather than a prideful, because I was just kind of moping and sad about the lack of connection, and I really wanted the connection, so I obsessed over getting the connection, but maybe not listening to a signal of how they like to connect, or not being able to meet them there because it's not the same place, and not realizing that I could just let go and stop trying to make it happen. So I would say that's my number one folly in relationships, is really trying to make them happen when they're not happening. Which is a little bit like self-obsessed and desiring. I mean, the connection is like hoping for, like, a glorious connection that will be win-win and heal on both sides. But if they're not into the experience with me, then I just guess I need to listen. Then I'm gonna turn my video off because I'm just listening.
Thank you, Denise. Yeah, relationships can definitely get us self-obsessing if we don't feel an equal exchange of energies. Yeah, definitely. So as we can see, narcissism sneaks out in all kinds of different areas.
Equal exchange. Sorry.
Yeah, you were saying it. I just thought it was a good point. I wanted to highlight it.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing a lot of people probably experience that in relationships.
The runner chaser vibe. And then the runner is obsessing, and then the chaser is also obsessing. But we're just obsessing on the different points.
Yeah, challenging place to be.
Is it my turn?
I think it's your turn if you want it to be your turn.
I think I'd like to wait a little bit before I share. I just
Okay.
finished feeding my cats, and I've been, active but listening and focused on what it was saying, but I'm not feeling like I have something ready to share yet. So
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't realize again that I was muted. I was saying all these things to you. I wasn't there because I was saying I was going to bring up this visual. So in case anybody wants to just see a little short blip of each of the what that's about. I think it's kind of a nice theme to have up. We'll have it up for a little while just so people can see what we're working with. It kind of helps to keep us focused, and it's also nice to have a visual.
Can you send us that? Or is
I
that the same thing that you posted? Because I have that. So I copied the entire description of tonight into a Word.
yeah, no, this is just this is kind of a lot also for people who see the video later and may not read the whole the whole code that I've sent out to you guys in the invitation. So I just kind of wanted to be there for a little while, so anybody who might be looking at this later can kind of really get a good beat on this, with this on what we're dealing with. So if you don't feel like sharing right now, that's okay. Let me see. So unless I'll give it another minute or two in case anybody else feels like sharing. Otherwise, we can start doing the gift. But I'll give it another minute in case Amira might want to share. I'm okay. So I think what I'll do is each time we go to the next step, I'll bring up this visual just for a moment, like I did now, and then I'm gonna stop share, and then when we shift into the siddha, I'll bring it up again for a little while. So each time we go into the next step, in case we need a little refresher of what we're working with, that way you guys don't have to continuously try to remember it and focus on it. We can just relax and share whatever we're sharing. So I'll bring it up at each station. Although I didn't do it at the shadow, we will do it at the gift like I just did, and we'll do it at the siddha again. All right, so back to the normal space. Okay, so shifting into the gift of this life code. It's called naturalness. My feeling is authenticity. I don't know. I connect more with the word authenticity. I mean, I think to be natural is you have to be authentic. I mean, you can't be natural if you're not being authentic, because otherwise there'll be some tension somewhere in you, and you can't be authentic without being natural. You can't fake your authenticity, so you have to be natural. So to me, they're like two sides of the same coin. So I'll go a little bit more with the authenticity because that rings a little more true to me. And with anybody else, you can either use naturalness or authenticity, up to you. But when I bring that obsessive self-concern into my heart, and I just remember to love myself again in a way that maybe my father wasn't able to back when I needed it from him the way I did. The first thing that happens is I immediately stop obsessing about myself, and I start to feel just present in the space, just present and available for whatever's in my space, and available in the sense of ready to respond to whatever's there, in kind of in a relaxed way, where I feel like with that kind of relaxation, I'm comfortable, and my senses are open, and kind of I'm not in my head thinking about things. I'm more kind of feeling the energy in the space, feeling the people in the space, and kind of just in a mode of comfortably being patient. Like there's no rush to get anywhere. It's just kind of seeing what's in the space and how the space what the space needs. And so then I find myself just kind of tuning into the space with my senses and kind of looking around and listening and just the different areas in my space and what each area needs, and if it needs my attention in that moment, or if there's people in the space, it's just kind of tuning into them, and if they're busy, then they're in their space, but also listening to my own inner space, and maybe there's something in me that wants to move toward that other person. Or maybe I just want, maybe I just need to sit there for a moment and just be in my space and feel what I need to feel. But it feels like a much more expansive space, because just sharing it here, it's like I feel well, basically connected with everybody in the space right now I'm sharing with, and but more in a energy way, not so much as what is everybody doing, but more in the sense of just feeling like we're all in the same, sharing the same space, and we're all connected, and it's an open and supportive and mutually beneficial space. And it feels easy to share in this space. I don't feel obsessed or self-conscious at all. I feel just like I would literally be with my family, minus the dysfunctionality. just the simple open relating, and being and being really open and interested in what everybody else has to share too, as much as I'm interested in sharing my own space. So it feels as much equally wanting to share what I have to share that might hopefully be of benefit to others, and hopefully somebody shares from their space might be beneficial to me. So to me, that's really a juicy reason to enter the action, to start, to behave in this way, because it feels like it creates a connection, a deeper connection beyond the surface, that I feel just in itself, given the world we live in, is something valuable, to just have the time and the space and the energy to do that, and just to be able to share authentically. So I want to say I feel grateful. So I say thank you to everybody for being here and taking that in. And that's as much as I have to say about authenticity at the moment, my authenticity.
Oh, I will share. I think it's funny because coming to the gift is also somewhere where I notice this like self-obsession come up in general, is where I have this belief that I need to get it right, and then so with like the gift of being naturalness or authenticity, I'm like, oh, how do I just be myself? And then I'm like, oh wait, that's only gonna get in the way. But yeah, I noticed that as being like the common thread of when I feel most authentic in situations is when I'm just open and receptive to whatever's going on, like outside in the space and in my inner space, and when I don't ignore things, when I don't ignore the things that I know to be true for me or for others in the space. And I notice that in other people as well. I appreciate that in other people when I'm sensing some indifference or maybe some dis-ease in them, and they shed their own light on that, and then it frees all of us. Like everybody in the space feels like, oh, the space itself is more real, more natural, and authentic now. Yeah, I think that's all I have to share.
I guess I'll go. I noticed in my authenticity or my naturalness, it's just a really nice vibration, no tensity or no tension. It's like letting go, and I just wish I had more of it most of my life, feeling comfortable in my situations, and because I don't think that I would have the physical problems or challenges that I have, if I had been more in my authenticity. So it's like a deep yearning for it, but then I obsess over it, because I'm so, and I think that, proper relationship will assist in authenticity, but then the obsessive part is like, no, let's have proper relationship. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't the proper relationship to have a proper relationship in. So it's like allowing that authenticity to just really be the steering, like the captain, like being in the center of myself, of what my authenticity is, and realizing from which energy center I might be stemming from, because coming back into the heart, then I can remember that I'm about love, and I'm about connecting with love. And if I'm not being love or not connecting with love, then it's not a joyful experience, and it's not there. And we can't heal everyone, and it's about being in our own most healed expression or vibe, which is being like the most authentic and most natural, most flowing person that we can be. But to be there and to get there, I would really appreciate to not have to put up protective surroundings a lot of times, and just allow myself to sit and flow into myself and be grounded. I love being like grounded with like touching the ground with my feet and feeling like my feet are touching the entire ground every time I take a step on earth, or when I'm sitting in meditation, that both butt cheeks are actually on the ground evenly, rather than one raised and then a shoulder like this, and like that. That's the whole point of meditation, is to notice that you're like, when you can, I'm breathing deeper and like allowing the body to unravel. It's just such a blissful experience and space. And I love being in that space, because it feels like miracles can be born and happen, and you connect with the worlds that you love and that love you in your authentic space. When you're in your authentic space, then what truly is for you, because if you're in an authentic space, then it might not be for you. But yeah, there's so many aspects of that. I really hope for the depths of it in all of me, what I call the potential for totality of my total self being totally authentic, totally natural, and totally in flow, but dynamically so, like always recreating the space according to my energy centers being aligned in divine expression of myself, without expectation of others, and just being.
Thank you, Denise. Yeah, authenticity is a challenge. It's not something that, not only is it not something that we're encouraged to do, but it's also not something hilarious. I don't know if it's hilarious, but it's paradoxical that nobody else can actually teach us how to be ourselves anyway. The truth be told, nobody can actually do that for us. So it's doubly challenging, because first of all, we grow up in a world where people, I mean, as a kid, when you're just authentic and yay and just having fun and spreading your energy, then so many times it's just shut down because it's just not the right time according to the grown-ups. But then on the other hand, it's like in order to be yourself, it's like it's not something anybody else can tell you how to do. So yeah, there's a lot in that.
I wanted to chime in finally. Sorry, I was feeding my cats and then I had to feed myself too. And when you were asking earlier about a color, seeing a color, what came to me was purple. And purple is a very healing color. It's a very spiritual color, or something I would have heard. And talking about being authentic, and I actually feel that the most times I'm the most authentic is when I'm alone. And I'm not, trying to maneuver my way around someone else or someone else's ego or what, trying to, because I'm like a very much people person and I will tend to accommodate others. And also because my whole life I've been pursuing paths that were quite against the status quo. First of all, now being vegan. And when I was 17 in 1972, actually it was 16, 1971, and then I switched to a different practice. I started doing meditation. And it was just starting to come into our culture, but it was still thought it was weird for a long time. And unfortunately, meditation never really made its way into our culture like it is desperately needed, but for just different reasons. And I was never looking to be against the status quo, but I was always searching for truth. For me, it was just wanting to live, from my heart and just know the truth. And so with a very early age, I realized I just had this, I don't know where it came from, but I thought like I want to go home, and I know my home is not in this world and it's within. That's how we find it. And then coming across veganism, it totally took me by surprise. I wasn't looking for it. I just saw some undercover videos online and it just like blew my world apart. And then I dove into research, and I still do, but I just learned and learned and learned and learned and learned. And I think that was an important part of actually what's kept me solid in being vegan. In addition to animal rights, understanding all of the other reasons why, animal agriculture needs to end and why a plant-based system is so imperative in every way. And it's very hard being authentic in those ways and being in this world, because most people don't get it and they don't want to get it, and they want to have conversations that just bide the time. And I've always struggled a lot with like small talk and conversations with people and what do you say, and I always felt like I had to leave a part of myself behind and fit into this mold that someone else, like squish myself down, so to speak, to be able to relate to a lot of people, So it's very rare that I've had, really good friends and people that I felt like I could really be myself with. But what's really gotten to me, what's just occurred to me being present in this meeting, was how I feel that I'm really my most authentic self when I'm alone. I'm done. Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you. That was pretty cool, the part about being alone. And this is what I love about these meetings, is because everybody brings their own unique angle to it, and so it just kind of enriches what the experience is of whatever we're doing. I thought what I wanted to do is just
Can I add one thing quickly? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Before I move on and I forget. The word alone, doesn't it come from all one?
Well, that's how I like to see it. I like to see it as all one. Yeah, that could be a way to get in touch with the Siddha space too. In this, in fact, that's a good lead in to the Siddha spaces, from alone to all one. but that is I think it's an essential thing to realize too about our authenticity, is that it really we first discover it when we are alone, because that's when we meet ourselves. If we can do it and be silent and be still and be present, then we start to, that's what meditation is basically. It's discovering your authenticity, whatever that may be, and encountering that and just being with it. But
Being
yeah,
okay in your aloneness.
yeah, exactly. And then yeah, and then being okay in that. That's much easier said than done. It can take some getting used to, being okay in your own aloneness, and that can only come from somebody who's able to be okay. I don't think anybody would say that if they couldn't be okay in their aloneness, because I don't think most people even like being alone. I mean, I'm talking about the general populace, I think, unless they're naturally reclusive, which is an exception rather than the rule. But what I thought might be fun right now, to kind of just slowly move toward the siddha, but I don't quite want to get to the siddha yet. But when we did the earlier meditation and the symbol arose, for me it was I just want to kind of give a step to the gift of authenticity. But when that dropped into my heart, and I just said, let's allow a symbol to arise. For me, it was a green cauldron, and so as I tune into that, because I'd like to invite everybody that if there's a symbol that came for you, is that when you recall it, that you also recall the energy that goes with it. And for me, that energy is it's like compassion, and it's like as a cauldron, it's something that's always it's always there. It never runs out. So it's a compassion that never runs out. And to be quite honest, I did not know I had that in me. And that's why symbols, because a lot of times they'll come from your superconsciousness or your subconscious, or somewhere that's not normally a place you would consider receiving a message from, because it's usually, it's like a dream space, which can either be conscious or unconscious. But I think I feel a lot of my presence in this space right now, as I tune into this cauldron of compassion, is realizing that coming here every time to this meeting is holding my own heart in a space of compassion for everybody in this space. And that I share that space with everybody, that I hold a loving space, but also a meditative space. Because as I understand it, compassion is a very, like a Tai Chi symbol, a yin and yang of love and wisdom. I mean, well, it could be love and wisdom too, but in this case, love and meditation. Equally coming into the space. So as much as I want to share a space of acceptance and appreciation and care for everybody's whatever they're bringing to the space through your presence, I also want to create a space of a deeper awareness where everybody's really attentive and present to everybody else in the space also. Because as we move into the gift space, we also connect into everybody's hearts in the space right now, and we feel through each other's hearts. And I like to think of it as a golden ring, but you can think of it however you want. But I like to think of it as a golden ring that goes through all of our hearts and connects us as one golden circle of energy that moves through all of us right now. And so this cauldron of compassion is what is being taken. When it comes into my heart, I receive whatever is coming through all of you guys, and then what comes out is my addition of this cauldron of compassion. So there's always this deep acceptance with total awareness of the space we're creating, and that anything is okay and we can go anywhere, with awareness, with really being present in awareness, as well as being very open and unconditionally accepting and appreciative of what everybody's sharing. So I just kind of wanted to do that because it felt like it seemed like we want to step it up just a little bit more with the gift frequency. So this is kind of a fun way to do it, if with the whatever symbol arose and the color and whatever it might mean to you, and do like what I'm doing right now is kind of gifting that into the space. So just kind of when you're sharing it, the sense of just being what it is you're sharing, so that we all kind of are washed in whatever that is, that energy that I'm sensing everybody's feeling. So I feel that I've gotten my my symbol across now. So whoever else would like to come from that space now.
The symbol that came to me when we did that exercise was like a clump of grass or a fern, I guess. It was just like a green, just like a green plant that was kind of ambiguous, and yeah, I don't know. It made me feel nice in the moment. In the moment, I was like, oh, I appreciate that. When I think of like green grasses and plant life and forest life in general, it's very inviting to me, and I feel very like it's like a very gentle. To interact with it is always a very gentle experience, and so I guess what I took away from the symbol was the gentleness, and kind of realizing how much I appreciate that, and how much maybe how much of gentleness I myself may have to offer that I don't really think about or necessarily value. I feel like gentleness wasn't something, or it's not something that my mind immediately goes to think of as being really respectable or something that I would look up to, or that someone would point to and tell me to look up to. I think that'll be my gift.
Thank you, Evan. That's kind of cool. Again, green energy, I guess, is connected with it, but just also the term naturalness, which is part of what the gift energy is about: authenticity, naturalness, and nature, and just, I guess, inviting too. That's really interesting. That kind of turns it around, and actually the energy of inviting, that energy in attracting people also, that is naturally, I think invitation is a way where it's really truly a compassionate way to be with others, because you're creating a space for them to come into your space. Isn't that what invitation is? You're creating a space that they can come into, that's your space. So that's really cool. Thank you.
That was really interesting because there was a symbol that was already coming to me before you even mentioned that, and I didn't know why. And then you're like, and if you want to make a symbol, so it was like I've been laying down, because I'm a little tired right now, so I'm getting up just to talk to you guys. So I was feeling a point of my spine was feeling like I just have this kind of a lot of pain, or I've had a lot of pain in my spine, and my vertebrae and stuff are malformed and at the moment. And so I was feeling one of the vertebrae specifically, and for some reason it looked like it. And I'd never seen this before, and I do a lot of meditation on my spine and stuff like that. Is what formed was a marble, like with a spiral, a silver spiral in it, and it was sparkly silver in the spiral. So it was like a round marble, like a nice little glass nugget with silver spiral sparkles, and then the dark part of the marble was kind of like brown auburn sparkles too, like a dark, almost black. So to me, that's kind of like represents a nugget of space, and that's one of my medicine names in the Hickory circle is Tukiyama, which is means stardust. So I'm often reminded that we come from stardust, and we come from the potential of everything and all, and it's a lot of us are working with the idea of that we can create our reality through our feelings, our intentions, and the media of self that goes on inside of ourselves. I call it the media. And then in this galactic world of all the stars and all the dust and all the particles and potentials, the swirl comes together and creates our life, but also every bit and point of the body is still stardust. So if we can, I think that represented just the whole nugget of one marble and the miracle of one particle or one piece or one aspect or one vertebrae, it's still stardust. And in that being, that gift of authenticity, what would be the perfect or highest potential and blueprint, sacred blueprint of oneself, and can we get back to it? So by recreating the stardust of our reality, and piece by piece, or all of it at once. And to me, that's what it feels like when I'm in the authentic space. Is I'm like vibrating, like I'm literally almost like leaving this planet, and I can feel my molecules, like my atoms swirling, and I can feel it on different levels. I can feel it like very physical, or I can feel like this undulation, and then like parts of my body actually jerk and twitch according to shifting feelings. But then in my childhood, I would go really deep into these really super present spaces where I actually felt like I departiculated, and so I like little parts of me kind of do that still. And I haven't done a lot of reading on this stuff, but this is really a curious space for me. And like so what when I was a kid, I had like out of body experiences, and I would always come back telling myself to remember. So remember, and that was always the most important thing for me. But in society, it wasn't really accepted, or people didn't know what I was talking about. And it's taken me this long to give myself the time to get back there. I just really think that if we learn how to be authentic and be in our deepest being, at early childhood, like I had gifts when I was a child, but I didn't know how to tell people about it. I had my own language for it, and my family didn't understand, and I just, my teachers didn't understand, my peers didn't understand. There was no internet when I was a kid. I couldn't look it up. I didn't have books that told me about it. The library was far away, like all that kind of stuff. So I had the stars, I had the trees, I had, I talked to nature, but I didn't have anyone to relate with it. So getting back into that space of being the infinite potential and connected to life, that's what that means to me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Denise. What came to me as you were expressing all of that, which was all a nice journey through a lot of different things, but basically that the symbol that you got, it seems like that would definitely be worth a little meditation time. That's what I got out of that. It seems like that's there's quite something in there. It might be worth spending time just sitting with and checking out. It's very interesting. Nancy, did you have a symbol you wanted to share?
No, no, nothing has come to me. Just that color purple and the sense of, being really my true, most authentic self when I'm alone. Because I think sometimes we look to people to help us find that, and the people that we feel we can be ourselves with, quote unquote, those are our friends and the people that are our chosen family, And one of the hardest things I think people have, I think, with family are the expectations to fit in, or because people, even our parents, wanted us to be something to make them look good. And so often that has a lot to do with even in relationships, but it's really a profound feeling, and it doesn't mean we don't need friends, because we do. I mean, we're all here, right? So we also do need that connection with others people, but I guess it has to do with more, what do you expect? Like that your expectations are from a place of truth and consciousness, not the greediness of the mind, which can sneak in like anywhere. The greediness of the mind, it comes across in so many ways that we don't even realize, Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your insight there. And I think it's the main fuel of narcissism is greed, because it's this insatiable desire to have more and more and more, even way beyond the need for whatever it is you're wanting more and more of. Yeah. So, but then, yeah, but then the settling into yourself without there being any field of expectation or anything, then you actually get to see how you would unfold or how you are in a space. And it's like, how often do we just do that? Do we just let ourselves be in a space to see how we are with the space? I mean, are we uncomfortable? Are we comfortable? Do we feel great? Are we thinking a lot? Is there a lot of sensations? Do we have a sore back? Is our legs going to sleep? Are we thinking about what happened earlier in the day? Have we got a twitch? On and on and on. But just how often do we just allow ourselves, just that moment to come into what is authentically our space? It's really that simple. I mean, to just sit and be silent is the entry into all the gifts. The minute you just stop the world and just be present with yourself, and that's like a major key. And the minute you forget that and enter into identification with 1,000,001 things that the world draws you into, you're in shadow. Because it doesn't really matter if you're great in the world and you do really good and you make a lot of money and this or that. If you're identified with what you're doing in there, you're back in shadow again, even if it's a really skillful shadow. Because in the end, on some subtle level, you're going to feed your ego with that skill instead of really contributing something beautiful to the world. And even if you do contribute something beautiful to the world, it's going to be for the purpose of gratifying your ego. And even if it does good for the rest of the world, you missed you. So it's so important to find you in all that. And I see so many successful people that even do good with the world and in the world and for the world and do a lot of things, but they don't. They don't do anything for themselves because they don't have any connection to themselves. They've never found that moment to stop and find out what is their authentic experience in this moment. and how do they just be with that? It's not like you have to do anything to be yourself. That's why it's just such a paradox, and that's why the continuous drive to accomplish. I mean, and that's how we're set up in the world, and we just run with that, and we never, and most people don't even, there's no ever a thought that there's anything other than that. That's it. That's all there is, and that's the superficial world we live in. You know, and it's just it's a great stroke of good fortune that something hits you so hard and it could be a good thing. It doesn't have to be an intense or painful thing, but at some point something hits you and makes you full stop, and those are the lucky ones of us that just go, oh. And then all of a sudden in that, and in the world right now with this COVID thing, there's such an opportunity for people, because we're being hit with a great big thing right now, and everybody has to stop most of what they're normally used to, and there's so much space to just be in your own space. But you know, and what we see is the world we live in. After a couple of weeks or a couple of months, everybody's chomping at the bit, and they're like, open the gates back up again. We don't care if it kills people. Just let us back out there. You know, the economy, da-da-da-da-da. And it's just such a strange world we live in that anybody should, because of something like this, even have to suffer. We should all be thinking about each other and taking care of each other. But what are we? But if people took care of themselves by simply being with themselves and giving themselves the time and the energy, you know, because what is meditation? It's loving yourself. That's what it is. Because to be with yourself and be present and to be unconditionally accepting of your own space in your own presence, that's loving yourself. And that's what meditation is. And then when you express it outside, then it's like, then you're sharing that meditation with others. That love that came to you, that allowed you to meditate and be in your own space. Then you come out meditative and others feel loved. So it's really a win-win situation when that kind of process can start to snowball. Because there really is no other process. If there is not that process happening, then it's just egos, and it's all like a paper make-believe world. There is no depth. There's no insideness. There's no authenticity. It's just a bunch of, we might as well be two-dimensional things, just, you know, just interacting with each other with no depth. I mean, that's kind of what it's like without that process of the love meditation thing. Like I was saying, the connection that makes for compassion. So anyway, that's the interesting world we find ourselves in. And on that note, unless anybody else has something they'd like to share, I'll bring up our little code again, and just so for a moment we can tune into, we're moving into, and especially for those who see it later, we're moving now into the Siddha of being, which is, there's some things down here that I've said about it. I call it man, my title for it is Man the Microcosm, as a complete universe in him or herself. It might be fun here. At the Siddha level, one has made the quantum leap into the capacity to embody being, which is the totality of oneself, in such a way that not only is everything that one has ever learned available to one's field of direct experience, but also one is linked into the interconnectedness of everything in such a way that one has learned is constantly being upgraded, optimized, and adapted in new, innovative, and novel ways, not only towards expected fields of application that you're familiar with, but becomes the basis for providing solutions in areas completely outside those usual areas of application. So what the heck does that mean? Well, as I become my spine goes ramrod straight up and down, and I become a lightning rod of whatever's going to come through now with this Siddha of being. The whole meeting I've been fantasizing about getting to the Siddha in the sense of, because it connects me into that thing I do every day where I move a kind of regenerative movement practice that puts me in harmony with nature and kind of tunes me into through my body and into the earth and into the sky and into the environment I'm in, and through my breathing and through all my internal organs and the different moves I make and how it concentrates and moves my feelings and everything all around my body in different ways. And also the patterns that I move through and how it copies the movements of nature, whether it's wind or air or fire. It's very, very dynamic, but it can also be very soft and slow, and it can be very flowing. And many times as I'm moving along, it's like I become very silent, and then I have things that I see that might have to do with my life, or it might have to do with an insight about something I've been struggling with or whatever. And so what I find is a very powerful way for me to tune into Siddha space is how I start my day after my coffee, of course. When I get up in the morning is to go out and do my regenerative movement practice. And I'm purposely not saying Tai Chi or Bagua because it's more than just doing a form of movements every day, because every day those movements are new and different. It's like every day it's tuned into the world I'm in, and so every day it reflects a little bit subtle nuances of difference in the way I move. Even though I've been doing it for decades, it always has a different feeling to it. It connects me into a different place inside myself. It connects me into a different place where I literally feel like that what I was saying earlier about the Siddha of being is you become a microcosm, a moving universe. You become an expression of the universe through you. And so in my movement practice, which is mostly in my consciousness right now, it's like moving through everything, moving through all of us, and moving through everything that is connecting us together and what is bringing us together and all the different intents we've been sharing and expressing. And it really gets very interesting, because it becomes all of a sudden these different flows that are moving through all of us, these different energies. And some might have to do with feelings, but others might be insights, and others might be intuitions, and others might be images, or others might be movies, or others might be memories. But and just kind of letting it all flow through, and it all kinds of makes a really incredibly indescribable, it makes incredible sense in a very indescribable way, because it comes through the center of my being, and I connect with every one of you in your center of your being right now in order to access this space where I feel interconnected with each one of you, and then also connected into the center of all life. Because once you're in that center, all life is in that center at all times. It's never any different than that place. Especially with nature, where there is no interference with that natural space. They may not be totally aware of it. We can be aware of it. We are aware of it right now, and it opens up so many insights in a way that's really hard to describe, because I can look at each person and I can see a whole array of things that make sense about this person now that I couldn't possibly put into words, but energetically and through a kind of visual awareness, fluid dance of intelligence, it all kind of makes sense. And I hope I'm conveying this in a way where you can partake of it, because in the connection through the being, there's these emanations that are connecting us and giving us all this information at every moment. And it's just a matter of how subtle and how centered and how immovable you can be, and allow that connection to be sourced and sensed. Not only sourced through you, but sensed towards you, that you sense it and you feel interconnectedness. So to me, being is very much of an alive, flowing, kind of with very many simultaneous, spontaneous insights happening all at the same time, kind of dancing together and making sense, almost like a flock of birds, but instead it's all kinds of different experiences. Each bird and each movement is a unique experience, and all of it fits and makes sense, but not in a normal way you could do with your mind and the way we normally try to solve problems. It's more like a bigger mind that can kind of just be with that, be with that experience and just get what it's about without having to figure it out. It's more about being it. There you go, being. So that's why I love what I do in the mornings, because it kind of puts me in that place from the get-go, at least in my body, and my being and my body get connected. So there's always something that I'm connecting to through that place, no matter what's going on the surface in my head and figuring out my life and my day and my job and blah, 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 blah. And just remember, when we're in the siddha space now and we're all connected and kind of as one dancing, gyroscopic intelligence, together, just kind of moving through space, you can't do any wrong. So it doesn't matter whether you think you're going to do it right or not, or what you're going to say or not, because the field has been created so that everything in the space has way more depth of meaning than what might be the vehicle, the words you're using.
Well, I'll jump in after that, because I feel like for me, the practice for me that feels the most like a Siddhic practice is music or art. Like when I'm drawing, I will do an exercise where I just say like, oh, there's no mistakes, whatever happens, and I incorporate it somehow into what it is I'm drawing. And then from that, something flowers out of it and things start to take form that I never could have consciously anticipated, gone out and executed. I just had to like kind of receive it and just let it slowly arrive, and also not be hard on myself for any expectations that I didn't live up to. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about the idea of things just being, and I guess what had came to me when you were speaking was something I used to do in high school a lot, where I would sit down and I would look at things and I would kind of slowly start to just strip things of their like labels or something, to kind of just try and see on the simplest level like what they are in that moment. And more recently I've started to take that outward look and put it inward, and where like I had an ache in my elbow maybe 10 minutes ago, and with things like that, now I'm kind of challenging myself to strip all my connotations with it, and then just letting little things like that, like pain, like letting it just be, because that's all it's doing right now in the moment. And just letting things be as they are, then they kind of reveal themselves to you, and I realize maybe there's a correlation between my lower back pain and the way I'm sitting, or something like that. But yeah, I first really have to just open myself up to what this might end up being, and then from that just reveals a lot more. Anyway. Thank you.
You're not going to say anything? No comments? Okay.
Well, because I saw you unmute, so I was just going to let you go. I thought that was pretty well spoken for itself. I think that I could have extended it, but I think I wanted to let that one just be.
Yeah, I really relate with that. The way you're sitting is gonna hurt the lower back or whatever. Yeah, I just return to my childhood a lot, because I remember what it was like to be, or being. And right now I have this ache in my jaw, and it's like I'm always holding, or like my lips like this and my jaw like that, and I have like a pain right here. And when I was a child, my my jaw always hung open. Like my mouth, I was that kid that always had the mouth open. It was like, my lips were like that, and it was just comfortable. And I, slobbered when I slept, and it was just who I was. And I guess in adulthood, I started to like shut my mouth and more tension, and and I just really enjoyed those just being times as a child, and the depth of it, and the full body, full emotion, full sensing. I just remember like sitting in the sun with the wind and just hearing the birds, and that's all there was. And it was this whole like, what I would do is we had swimming pools, or lived in apartments or buildings that had pools, and then we'd go camping a lot and be around lakes and rivers and stuff. And I just remember laying there in the sun with a towel over me and being in this whole like virtual world of like wind and sun and birds, and that's all that there was. And I was so absorbed in it, and it was so beautiful, and so every sense of mine was pricking, like, and I just enjoyed that experience so deeply, and no thought, just immersed into the environment, and beingness of being life amongst life. So I always felt, nature always helps me bring me back into that beingness state. Like I've been practicing when I was living in Tulum a couple months ago, and over the years when the water was nice, I would go swim in the ocean, but I would just sit in the bottom of the ocean and meditate. And the more being you are and relaxed you are, the less you really need to breathe. So I was getting up to like maybe 2 minutes. And I think when I was doing that also when I was a kid. There was a Hawaiian guy that lived at my apartment, and he taught me how to swim, and I ended up being like a top swimmer, because of the approach was just being so present. He would meditate in the bottom of our pool for like 20 minutes, and I would sit literally, or 15 minutes. I literally looked at the clock, saw him down there, looked at the clock. But he grew up in Hawaii, and so there's this big movement with breath and holding your breath, and that's probably one of my most present moments that I have in my meditations a lot, and it releases a lot of tensions and allows those particles to jumble back into a reorganized space that feels good. So what I end up doing is I breathe in, I hold my breath, and then I squeeze my mula bandha locks, and then I just hold and I listen to my heartbeat, and I'm so inside of myself, and I feel the circulation going through my body, and it's such an amazing experience. And it's also bringing like oxygen and nutrients to those spaces that were blocked and not moved, and then it's helping me recognize my movement. Like I'm learning to be more present in my sitting or my laying, because I had a lot of PTSD for so many years. My body was just if you have network chiropractic, they look at your body, your back, and every single bit of my back was red, which was very unusual. So all of my muscles were spasming. So it was so letting go of that PTSD, that traumatic experience, and going back into the presence of self has been such a journey. And this breath work has really been really wonderful in bringing me back to that presence of the internal, and really recognizing my heartbeat and my breath and my circulation, and feeling the nutrients just yum up those areas that have been stagnant for so long, the life back. And that's being on a really beautiful level. And I really hope that for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people have been having too much stress, and I don't think it's necessary for humanity. So I really hope for the return of the beingness of each one of us through breath and presence and meditation and qigong and dance and all the arts in such a, like, have it be meditative. I've always been gung ho for that, and I'm really happy to be meeting people that are on that level now, because then it nourishes that in me, and we can nourish each other. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Denise. That yeah, that's kind of like putting the siddha in like in the center of a mandala, and then the mandala is all these other things that you could get your attention caught up in, but then eventually slowly you learn how to just come to the center and just be, because from there you can take care of all those things because it's all within your view, and you're not lost in any one of these little places over here or there or anywhere. You're just at the center where everything is available, and you can just go for that. That's what arises in me with what you were saying. So thank you. Nancy, would you like to sit a space us? Oh, I guess
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I feel like I kind of just need to chill here right now.
okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming to about the end of it, because at 7:35 I told somebody I'd do a one-on-one with them for about a half hour. So if there's anything left anybody has to say, otherwise I'm going to bring it to a close in a few minutes, unless there's anything else anybody has to say. And I also like what your response, Nancy, because just chilling and being is, hey, that's also being, hey, right? I mean, that's also cool too. Hilariously enough. So anyway, what occurred to me is that thing I was saying about the mandala, and it's like there's a progression from this focus on ourself with this narcissistic attitude, and then all of a sudden we find a way to slowly open up, like even from when you're a child, and then slowly open up and realize we have a family, and maybe we can respond to that family, and then a school, and then a work, force, et cetera, et cetera. But eventually, ultimately, being puts us in touch back with the whole again. So we start this journey as ourself. But the funny thing is, all the way through that, through the narcissism, through the authenticity, and all the way into being, the thing is that we've been a universe unto ourselves all the way through. It's just that the way we went about relating to that at the level of narcissism was very on the surface, and it was very much to touch, see, taste, smell, and hear in the most palpable physical way. But then as we started to find times where we could settle into ourselves and just be, then all of a sudden more subtle senses opened up that allowed us to sense our environment more, not only internally but externally. And the funny thing about learning to sense our environment internally, we get really good at sensing it externally at the same time, because there's always a balance. And then we became more involved in the world around us. And if we really cared truly about our own well-being, then what we're sensing inside as it came outside would be sensing the well-being and or adjusting and doing things in the environment to support the well-being of others. And then ultimately, as we go deeper and deeper and deeper into ourself, we find ourselves just that the ultimate state of being is just being ourselves at peace in our own space. That makes us a part of the whole that is like in tune with the whole, because the whole is such a peaceful. It's so peaceful, even in its movement, even in whatever it does. It's not fighting with itself. Nature's not fighting with itself. The stars are not fighting with themselves. So we find that quality that's in all of those things that connects even the whole universe together is peacefulness, because it allows everything to be. And so when we tune into that peacefulness, knowingly or unknowingly, we become part of the whole. And we literally start to reflect on our level what a universe is about. It's about a peaceful experiment in life, basically, on so many different levels. And of course, here in this world, we're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to have free will. We're allowed to go against the things that we have, and we literally like have to earn it. We have to earn the peacefulness, and we have to earn the love and the awareness and the meditativeness and all those things. But they're already there. They're already there in being, in the beingness of existence. Those things are already there. So in the end, it's like, can we become quiet enough to tune into that? Because there's so many qualities that existence is showing us all the time that are available all the time. It's just about us becoming quieter and quieter inside, so we can catch more and more subtle experiential, space. Because as it becomes more subtle, we start picking up things that just, we're amazed sometimes that we didn't realize that before, that the world is, that the universe is peaceful, that it is silent, that it is, in a sense, still, in the sense that the center of everything is still, so that it can move on the outside. That's a natural principle. But then if you become still on the outside, you will start to catch the movement that's happening on the inside all the time. So being has just so many mysteries that open up once we just start to be able to become authentically ourselves. And the only way we can do that is to meet ourselves. The only way we can meet ourselves is to love ourselves enough to meditate. And I'm going to leave it on that note, because I think that's such an important note. Thank you all for participating this evening.